All right, a whole lot of stablecoins, cryptocurrencies in the headlines this Thursday. You've got Bitcoin making headlines again, hitting another record high. I mean, how long ago was it when we talked about Bitcoin crossing 100,000? Now, 124,480 in early trading Thursday, 7% gain so far in 2025. It did retreat a bit back to 121,931, but hey, Bitcoin is on the up and up. Now, speaking of cryptocurrencies, Western Union, 175-year-old remittance giant, is considering launching its own stablecoin as a growing number of cryptocurrency projects compete with its core business of moving money across international borders. I mean, you've also got Bullish, which is a new cryptocurrency exchange, also popping in early trading its own IPO just 24 hours ago. So a whole lot going on in the cryptocurrency space. All right, we'll stick with payments. Virtual cards coming to Nigeria now. Cardtonic has put out this virtual card in Nigeria report where they reviewed sentiments towards virtual card players in Nigeria using mostly social media. So interesting report that we're going to jump in with Emmanuel Sohe, who is the CEO at Cardtonic. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the show, Emmanuel.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so I guess to kick things off, can you talk about how you put the data together? Because I know there was a data set and you scrubbed data from Twitter. There are a lot of bots on Twitter, yeah? So explain, in fact, what even motivated you to put this report together?
All right. For starters, we've been, a number of reports would usually focus on the complaint and where we're coming from, but we decided that we should look at what users are saying because feedbacks from users are usually very important. So what we did was we used Twitter's API to scrap data from Twitter. Then we used Python pandas to clean up the data. And like you rightly mentioned, there are a number of bots on Twitter. So what we did was to use the Python pandas to remove duplicates, remove bot responses, remove tweets from the complaints because you don't want to introduce bias into the data sets. So when we did that, we stored the data in Airtable, then we started our analysis.
Okay, very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. The time range is January. Let's put it back up there. You got, your time. You've got a time range there, January through, let's see, March, right?
2023 to March.
33,000 tweets. After cleaning, it came down to 15,000 unique users. After cleaning, 11,000. Then your sentiment breakdown. Yeah, pretty comprehensive. So there's a chart where you've got the sentiment, a bar chart with sentiment analysis. I think it peaked in January or so. Can you talk about, trying to essentially break down what that means? Okay, that's not the chart we're talking about, but still, it's a bar chart.
A line chart.
A line chart, thank you. So what's that line chart?
Explains the sentiments of the users. This is the chart. So what we tried to do was to understand what users are saying about virtual dollar cards in Nigeria. And before we even go into the chart, you recall in 2022, due to extreme pressure on the Naira due to shortage of FX, banks responded to the situation by informing their users that Naira cards will no longer be available for international payments. So at that moment, a number of fintechs jumped into the space trying to just solve this problem. Yeah. The products were not ready or were not perfect, but they wanted to solve this problem. So they came into the space trying to solve this problem with imperfect products. Then you'd see users beginning to complain that, I tried paying with my card, my card got declined and all of those things. So it's reduced sentiment at that point. But the players went back to the drawing board. What can we do to make things better for our users? And with new entrants like Cardtonic and some other players coming into the space. You
mentioned yourself first.
With other players coming into the space, we're able to maybe build the product to make sure it's perfect. So you would notice that sentiment as at that period, 2022, sentiment started to climb up.
Yeah.
And January this year, we saw record high sentiment at 0.4. Sentiment, by the way, is from -1 to 1.
Okay, gotcha.
So we saw record high sentiment, and positive sentiment keeps growing, and we hope it remains that way or stays the same.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is that's the peak you talked about. So wait, the payments landscape in general projected to be about 3 trillion and to grow from there. So I mean, you've mentioned a trigger here where traditional lines of making payments failed Nigerians. There was also the FX issues in the past and so on. But what are the other triggers that are boosting this surge for African payments?
Maybe before we even talk about key sectors boosting this surge, we have to recognize the demography of Africa by itself.
Yeah.
You know, in Africa, we have young, tech-savvy people determined to stay connected to the rest of the world. So regardless of regulatory concerns, they want to spend, they want to buy books, they want to buy goods from other parts of the world, right? And you also have, with globalization and digitalization, the world is smaller, and fintechs are coming in trying to disrupt the flow with traditional, or trying to change the payment processes. And we also have perhaps trying to also facilitate cross-border payments. But the key sectors driving this surge would be, number one, the cross-border payments that is estimated to hit 329 billion by the end of this year, and maybe 1 trillion within the next decade. Then remittance also, several sources have quoted that remittance into the continent as of last year, 2024, was about crossed 100 billion USD, and the CBN also reported 20.9 remittance into the country. However, one aspect that people don't pay attention to that is really doing the numbers would be cross-border payment to stable coins. Right. Many Nigerians and Africans, by extension, now prefer to use stable coins for cross-border payments and remittance due to the speed and inefficiencies with traditional SWIFT methods. So you find out that many Nigerians and Africans now prefer to use stable coins for payments. If you look at the global geography of crypto market by Chainalysis in 2024, they reported that remittance into the continent with stable coins was at 125 billion USD in 2024 and 59 billion USD within the same period. When you compare this with what the CBN had reported, 20.9 billion USD, you see it's almost times 3 of the official figures from the CBN. So most people are trying to use alternative means for cross-border payments, remittance, stable coins, crypto, and it's here to stay. So I believe it's high time the government come up with regulations for the industry, because it's here to stay. Young people will keep using it, and it's just important we set up regulations, we set up the infrastructure for players, legitimate players to play in the field.
Perfect. In fact, that just takes me now to the Genius Act that was passed in the United States, because what you're advocating for is what the United States have done. So the Senate, the House, they've passed the Genius Act, which is, can I remember what Genius stands for? Essentially, okay, here it is, guiding and establishing national innovation for US stablecoins. Perfect. So you go from there, and then Western Union is now thinking of launching its own stable coin, right? So isn't it going to disrupt you and everybody else that's in the space that's doing virtual cards? If a relative in overseas, in a diaspora, can send me a coin and I just convert it in 2 seconds to US, what is the point of having a card?
Well, that was why I mentioned that government needs to quickly come up with regulations and infrastructure for local players to play in this space. Because personally, I would say Western Union is welcome to the party. It's a buffet. You have solid products in Nigeria already trying to fill that gap. To be honest, you'd see players using crypto to facilitate cross-border payments
with blockchain technology,
with blockchain technology in Nigeria. So Western Union coming into the space is a welcome development. It's a big space. It's enormous. The demand is is enormous, right? So I doubt Western Union is trying to come up with their own coin. They are trying to use stable coin to facilitate payments, cross-border payments, which is what some other players in Nigeria are already doing.
Okay.
But it's just maybe due to regulatory concerns that you'd see some of these players trying to really watch what they do before they
issue
before they issue it.
Yeah.
So it's a welcome development, and the players with Western Union, it's going to maybe also bring in legitimacy into that space, because most people, when you talk about cryptocurrencies, stable coins, the first thing they ask you, is it safe? Is my money secured? Are you sure people don't use it for other illegitimate means? Right, but once you start having big players like this coming to the space, I believe it's going to really sanitize the space and also help others.
Okay, great. But if we just for viewers to understand, a stable coin has a 1-to-1 value ratio with the US dollar, right?
Yes, please.
But so my thing is this: if all these players are issuing stable coins, for me to be able to receive the money from the sender and myself have to be on that. Okay, so let's use you, right? So wait, are you going to issue a stable coin? What are you going to do?
No. We use stable coins. We rely on stable coins to facilitate
your
payments. Yes, please.
Okay, fine. But my thing is, if the US, which has the most number of diaspora Nigerians and where the bulk of Nigerian remittances come from, if they are regulating stable coins there, and my auntie in New Jersey wants to send me money, and she's sending it using a particular stable coin there, I'm neglecting how is there room to play for all the other players? Everybody would have to essentially be releasing their own stable coin, because they have to be on the same platform.
Yeah, the gap here is when your auntie sends you stable coins, you can't spend stable coins in the market.
Right.
So you definitely want to convert this to Naira.
Right.
That's where...
Well, dollars or then...
or dollars, or your fiat.
Right.
So that's where other players comes in. Because when you go to the bank, let's assume you are using Western Union. When you go to the bank, you don't just take the code and go to the market to spend. You need fiat.
Right.
Which is what players in Nigeria will come in to help you do. You get your stable coins, you can instantly convert it to cash from the comforts of your home or your bedroom and even spend it. And I think people are now beginning to even embrace stable coins as a means of exchange. You go to some dealers or to some markets and they tell you that, we accept stable coins. But I honestly believe there is a space, there is a gap for local players to fill, even without creating their own coins.
Okay. But then it would mean that when I receive the money, I would have to pick one of those players to facilitate the money coming in.
Definitely.
Okay, well, look, interesting stuff. Let me go back to your reports. You ranked, you had a table where you divided the different players in the virtual card space. You had the number of respondents, and you got positive, you got negative, you got neutral. For full disclosure, you're also ranked there as well. And you guys are more positive than neutral or negative. But what is the... and then you also had an overall ranking where you had, I think we already flashed it on the screen. Most of the responses were neutral, and then positive and negative were equal. So what are the main complaints from people? Yeah, there it is. So perfect. So 52% of respondents, or at least the tweets that you reviewed in your report, 52% were neutral, 22.5 positive, 22.5 negative. So what explain this? Why,
All right, the 52% neutral sentiments were users just stating facts.
Yeah.
Like I just downloaded an application
from
and I used
Cardtonic.
I don't want I just downloaded an application and I used it for cross-border payments. So we decided to categorize such tweets using the Twitter NLP. To classify the tweets. So we decided to classify such tweets as neutral sentiments, while tweets like, I just installed this app in 2 minutes, I was able to complete a cross-border payment, and in 30 seconds, I was able to fund those are positive sentiments. Yeah. Then we also have negative sentiments. Now I
saw that one. Now you listed the names of the companies.
Now you would ask why we have positive and negative sentiments almost at par. Like I mentioned, some players jumped into the space just trying to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And they did solve the problem. But with imperfect products, you would have users complain, reach out to you that, oh, this is the challenge I'm having, right? So, and you also know that some users have come into the space and they've left in a year or even less than 2 years.
Yeah.
So you see users complaining about declined transactions, this site's not accepting my card. Some of those concerns are what we can solve as Nigerians, because there's this sentiment against cards coming from Nigeria.
Yep.
From the onset.
Yep.
Then you also have users trying to maybe make a purchase with insufficient funds in their cards. This also contributes to the sentiment that is already existing. But we try as much as we can to solve some of these problems. And like I mentioned, positive sentiment is now growing, and we hope it remains the same.
Great. Now, you also, and if anyone is curious, download the reports. We didn't want to get into any trouble because you listed the companies with the negative. You listed positive and negative. You were very even. Right.
Yes,
So you balanced it out. You balanced it out. But your final recommendations, I was hoping we could just quickly run through the final recommendations there. One of the top ones, I believe, was you talking about no one wants to gamble at checkout. Reliability should be the default. Let's make cards work. Is that not a network issue, that first one?
Yeah, I mentioned that we have sentiments against cards coming from Africa One. Then there are network issues. But Visa and MasterCard, they are still reliable.
Right.
So most times it's due to the providers. That's where the challenge comes in. Like you have providers trying to also facilitate payments with insufficient funds. So that was why we said, let's make card work. No one wants to gamble at the point of checkout.
Exactly. It's embarrassing, right?
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Number two, let's put it back up there. You also talked about 24/7 support systems. And this is where AI comes in here. And I really want to get your thoughts. And you say there, number two, we must fix our support systems. A WhatsApp bot ghosting people for days isn't something users want to experience. 24/7 live chat, yes, it's. Are you talking about human beings? Because let's talk about the cost of, the reason why these guys most people are going to bots is because it costs less to use an AI chatbot to respond to users than pay somebody a salary on different shifts 24/7 or ship it off to India where they do that. But you're still paying for human beings. So what's your point there?
So I would say internally what we do is we have a bot connected to our intercom
That's
account.
you guys?
Yeah, we have a bot that's been trained to respond to user queries or queries from users. But, Nigerians don't like to take instructions from bots.
They want to talk to a human being.
So if it means providing 24 hours live chats to ensure that your users are satisfied, please do it.
Okay, but your costs are going up.
Yeah, costs are going up. But you also pay to use these bots and some of these agents that you use. So you just compare the cost. We have a metric that we measure almost every month to ensure that 70%, 60% of our queries are being responded to by our bots. Right. But so the remaining 30, 20%, you try to just resolve it with human effort. I believe we'll get to a point where these bots will be able to perfectly respond to human queries. But until we get to that point, we just have to balance it out.
All right. The next one on the list, I think it says the process can be faster. Shady fees. That one is speaks for itself. The process can be faster. Instant issuance, faster reversals, and real-time effects. Technically, is that still the network issue, or what's the thrust of that point there?
Yeah, for some players, from the sentiment analysis that we did, we noticed that some players come into the field or to the space and they don't do instant issuance. Even when you walk into some banks, they tell you that, it will take 3 days before your dollar card gets delivered to you.
Which is crazy.
And you also go to some banks and they instantly issue
print it out right there. There's a machine. That's
what we are trying to advocate for that. We see no reason why you should not be able to instant virtual cards instantly. It should not take hours before you're able.
Being virtual.
It's virtual, so you should be able to instant virtual card instantly. That's what we're advocating for. And then shady fees must stop. Let users know how much they are paying to get a card. Let them know the fees associated with your product. Users don't mind paying once they know that this is how much I'm paying and I'm going to get this service from paying.
Look, great reports, Emmanuel.
Thank you,
Just final word, what's your outlook for payments? You think it's just going to continue to grow as we move forward?
I think the African payment space is bullish. With the reports we've seen, there are estimates that we are going to cross the $3 trillion mark this year. But I think even before the end of the year, we should see the space is enormous. And like I mentioned, we have young tech-savvy people trying to stay connected to the rest of the world. If you look through the spending patterns on the reports that we publish, you would see that people are actually using the cards for infrastructure and development. When I say infrastructure, they are using it for productive tools. You see servers on the list of
items that they're spending on.
Items that they're spending on. You see AI bots, you see books and the like. So people want to learn, people want to develop, so they will keep making all of these payments and purchases. So the outlook is bullish and exciting times ahead, I must say.
Funny enough, a cryptocurrency exchange called Bullish just IPO'd in America yesterday. Emmanuel Sohe, CEO, Cardtonic. I encourage everybody to download this report. Very important, a very informative report on payments. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Artus.